Well, there's a famous poem entitled The Hound of Heaven. It is written by Francis Thompson, and it was adapted for stage play by C.S. Lewis, the atheist turned Christian who was also a very skilled storyteller. And this particular poem might go against your respectable Protestant sensibilities because it portrays God metaphorically in a way that you and I are not really accustomed to thinking of God. It shows God as a bloodhound. A bloodhound, of course, is a particular breed of canine that is uniquely suited for using its keen sense of smell to seek out and to track down human beings, those who are lost and are in some sort of danger, as well as those who are fugitives from justice and are on the lam. And we've all seen bloodhounds, whether in person or in movies or in folklore. They are relentless in their pursuit of whoever it is that they are searching for. They're diligent. They put their nose to the trail and they keep sniffing and searching until they find whoever it is that they are searching for. In the poem, The Hound of Heaven, we see a picture of a gracious God who is in constant pursuit of all people until they finally find their peace in God, their Creator. Many adult converts to Christianity have said that they did not find Jesus, but rather Jesus found them, because they were the ones who were lost. Jesus was not. Today's gospel passage shows Jesus being criticized because he's hanging out and he's eating with people of ill repute. Specifically, the way it's worded here, tax collectors and sinners. But you can fill in the blanks with any other noun that you would choose. And over the years, many well-meaning church people, they've read this passage, and I've heard countless sermons on it too, where they say, aha, see, I told you, this passage means that you and I are supposed to hang out and to eat with the least and the lowly because Jesus did, so we should too. I don't totally disagree with that, but that's not actually what this passage is about. Yes, decent and humble people will hang out with most anyone. But this text, Luke 15, 1 through 10, it's not about what people do or even what people should be doing. What it is, rather, is about what God does. It's two parables here, the parable of the lost sheep and the parable of the lost coin. In each case, in both cases, it's about the owner going out and searching for that which is lost, finding it, and then bringing it back. And that is exactly what Jesus himself was doing when he was eating with the tax collectors and the sinners, when he was hanging out with people of ill repute, people whom the religious leaders would have absolutely nothing to do with. Have you ever looked up into a night sky and seen all the stars and wondered? Probably not in Arlington Heights or Palatine. You got to get a little bit further away. Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin is awesome for that. You can just see a gazillion stars. But have you ever looked up into a night-filled sky with all those millions of stars and wondered if you were all alone in the universe? The short answer is you're not. The God who put all of that there is in constant pursuit of you and desires for you to have fellowship with himself. It's why you were created, and it's actually what Christmas is all about. I'm going to talk about Christmas for a little bit. Bear with me, I know it's not December, but I want to talk about that for a little bit. And you've heard those Christmas carols, and you've heard those passages of Scripture that talk about the Word becoming flesh and dwelling among us. And you've heard some hymns perhaps where Jesus is referred to as Emmanuel, which means God with us, and you've seen it on Christmas cards. That is exactly what Christmas is all about. It's the whole point. It's about a holy God who crashed our earthly party because he would not allow his own creatures, that's you and me, that's human beings, he would not allow us to be left alone in this vast universe, to exist without the care, the love, and the fellowship of our Creator. You know, I think oftentimes Christmas gets blown so way out of proportion because people make it out to be something that it's actually not. And that is exactly why so many people get depressed around the holidays. I remember a few years ago, I had a telephone conversation with my aunt on the other side of the state of Illinois. And my aunt had been through some pretty hard times. She had lost her husband, and she had lost both of her sons over the course of the last decade. Each of them had died within a few years of each other. One of her sons, of course, my cousin, he and I had played together as children, and I was asked to go and to officiate his funeral, and I did. But over the course of that time, she had lost her husband, had buried him and both of her adult sons. And anyway, during our telephone conversation, my aunt said to me, she said, I gave up Christmas. I don't do Christmas anymore. When the boys died, I was done with it. Honestly, who can blame her? I can't promise you that I wouldn't feel the same way if I were in her shoes. Most people make Christmas all about family, and there's nothing wrong with that per se, but where do you go when the bottom falls out? Where do people like my aunt go when their very reason for celebrating Christmas, when they're all dead and buried? I'm going to try to answer that in the next 3 points. We don't have a whole lot of time this morning, but I'll be brief about that. Point number 1 is this: God refuses to leave us alone. Okay, just remember that about the essential character of God's person. God absolutely refuses to leave you and me alone in this universe. That's a fact. Point number 2. God pursues us like a bloodhound. If you ever want to read comedy in the Bible, read Jonah running away from God. That's a laugh. God pursues us like a bloodhound. And point number 3, God doesn't ignore us. We ignore God. You know, having family around, it's great, but honestly, it's not what makes Christmas Christmas. If you've ever stopped to think and to ponder just how utterly amazing it is that there is such a thing as Emmanuel, God with us, the Word made flesh, that the God of the universe sent his only begotten Son into this world in pursuit of you and in pursuit of me, clothed himself with human flesh and came down here. And it's because the God of heaven actually loves you and me and the rest of the world he created. And when you actually ponder that and it hits you, guess what? You've just celebrated Christmas. You've just celebrated Christmas in the most pure form in which you can celebrate it. Christmas in its purest form is the realization that God came to us in human flesh, walked among us, and claims each of us as his own. And it doesn't take a tree and a turkey to celebrate that. All it takes is quiet trust. And that is what I will say here in closing. We have a meeting to get to. And this is not only for Christmas, but this is for all the other days of the year as well. This is for every time. This is for the whole of our lives. Our ultimate happiness as human beings, and we all want to be happy, our ultimate happiness is rooted in allowing ourselves to be found by the God who made us. You see, people don't find God. It's the other way around. God finds people, because God is never the one who gets lost. And when we are found, as it says in verse 10, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God, because that means that we have been brought to our true home. Amen.